That's right. It's been 6 months that we've been living in Sparky, and we've actually owned Sparky for a year, and we've learned a lot in that process. There are certain sacrifices you have to make this lifestyle work. Like we've said, we love this lifestyle. Not everybody will, especially the way we live it. So, in order to make our lifestyle work, here's what we have to do. We have to take quick showers. And that doesn't mean 7 minutes instead of 10 minutes. We have, I think it's what size are a 41-gallon gray water tank, I think. Yeah, I'll have to check those specs. Might be 39. If you take a 10-minute shower every day, your gray water tank is going to be full in 2 days. That's just how it is. Maybe 3 days. So what that means is military showers. We turn on the shower, get wet for 30 seconds, turn it off, lather up, and it's chilly, getting our hair washed, washing everything, turning the water on back for another minute, and rinsing off, and you're done. A shower's not a relaxing place where you have your genius ideas for your next creative project. It's a chore that needs to be done.
You'll have to take up yoga.
Yeah. So this is when we're boondocking and we're trying to go 2 weeks at a time without refilling or dumping our tanks. And we can do that, but we have to do this. Now, we can't take military showers every day or we'll fill up our gray tank too fast.
It's more like every 3 or 4 days and then washcloth baths in between. And for me, because I've got long hair, it's every 5 to 7 days I'm washing my hair. So I can wash my body pretty regularly, either military shower or washcloth bath, but my hair takes a lot of water to wash, so
that's something a lot of people don't realize when they see this glamorous full-time life is you're going to have to make certain sacrifices. Either never boondock and always be at a place with full hookups so you can take your 10-minute showers, which means $60 a night, roughly, on average, from where we've seen.
Or move every 5 to 7 days so you can dump tanks.
Yeah, but if you're taking 10-minute showers, you will fill your tank in 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
We had a friend fill it in a day and a half, just living normally. So you can't live normally. Same thing goes with electric. Like, when we wake up, we have to decide, what's our battery level at? How much video work do we need to do? How much work do I need to do? How much charging of my laptops and camera batteries and everything do I need to do? And is there enough extra electricity left over to run the toaster for 5 minutes? And you're weighing these decisions every day. Even with a giant battery bank, even with solar. We're going to do a video on this so you can see how much power we use in a day. That'll be really fun. But even with our giant battery bank and tons of solar, we can't just leave everything on all the time and just do as much as we want. It might be 10 at night. We might want to watch a little Netflix. We look at the battery and we think, shoot, we probably shouldn't run the inverter for an hour.
It's going to be cloudy tomorrow.
Yeah, it might be cloudy or rainy tomorrow. We may not get the solar back to charge that all up. Let's watch it on our tablets instead of on the TV. So little things like that you don't think about till you're out here. No baths. If you like your baths, I guess some of the vintage Airstreams had bathtubs in those, and those are pretty cool.
But it's still a different experience. It's not quite the same.
No, you're going to drain your fresh tank so fast. Doing the dishes every day by hand. You have to do that. There's no, at least in our model, there's no dishwasher. We have 4 spoons between 2 people. So if I have cereal for breakfast and yogurt for lunch and she did too, by dinner we have to do the dishes so I can have another spoon. Little things like that. There's just a lot more chores. Navigating new towns is tricky, and operating the maps and getting directions with low overpasses, and is there a U-turn there, and can I turn left here, and I thought it was just over there. That is really tricky. And towing sucks. I'm just going to say it. I don't like towing. There are days I forget the Airstream's back there, and I can just tow and tow and tow all day long. And then there are days I'm going 45 on the freeway, white knuckle, waiting for the semi to pass me because it's going to blow us around because we're in the middle of a windstorm. And there are days that Teresa needs to tow when I can't. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, one thing that only occurred to me recently is Steve, he works remotely, and he can be called away to meetings on occasion.
Out of state.
Out of state.
Fly away for business.
And as we've talked about, sometimes we have to make reservations quite a ways out because of the area that we want to get into. So what happens if, even Steve doesn't like to tow alone because there's so much going on. It's just way safer and backing it in. it's a better idea to have two people, we feel like, with as big of a setup as we've got. So what happens if Steve gets called away when I've got to get from Yosemite to Monterey by myself towing, and I've got to get backed into a spot, and I mean, that could happen, and we've got the reservation. What are we going to do? So it hasn't happened yet, but it's probably going to.
It will.
Yeah.
And even if Teresa were called away, I've got a lot of experience towing this. There's so much going on. I would stress out towing alone. I don't think I would recommend, a lot of people have asked, I'm a single person, would you recommend me getting an Airstream? I probably wouldn't recommend getting anything that's a trailer that attaches. If you're a single person, I'd see if you could get by with a Class B, because then everything's self-contained. You don't have to hook up a ball, raise it, lower it, aim it, get it all backed in there, try and find a U-turn somewhere. That'd be really stressful to do solo. Good points. It sucks having your work tied to cell service. So, granted, I say that. I have the best job in the world. I work with the best people. I love what I do. I'm so glad it affords us this lifestyle. But if I were independently wealthy and had $2 million in the bank, I'd still probably want to work. But if I had $10 million in the bank and I was retired, I would travel so differently than we do now. I would boondock in the middle of the forest where there's no cell service. Can't do that now. I've got to be within cell service, and that really limits where we can stay.
Another thing, too, that you have to consider is if you need solar to work, to keep your batteries charged, you can't always be in the woods. So we have to be careful. If we're going to be in an area where we're boondocking, we have to make sure we're going to have a lot of sunshine if we're going to stay for any period of time.
That being said, here in the West, we're almost always exposed to the sun, and finding shade is actually tricky, unless you're in the Pacific Northwest or California. All right, let's talk a little bit about costs. In my experience, you should not go into full-time RVing expecting to live a cheaper life or for the purpose of living a cheaper life. It can be done, and people do, and they border more on the shantytown, desperate, barely making it by, and that's okay. But to have a comfortable lifestyle that matches the typical American, I don't think it's going to be any cheaper, especially when you factor the purchase price and cost of repairs and all that stuff. So let's say a lot of friends will talk to them and say, where's a good place to stay in Tucson? And they'll tell us about some great state parks. And I'll say, how much does it cost? And they say, well, I don't really know. It's somewhere between $30 and $50 a night. It doesn't really matter to them because they only do it on the weekends, and the difference between a $100 weekend and a $150 weekend is not a big deal. Let's say it costs $30 a day to stay somewhere. That's $11,000 a year. $10,900. We're going to round up to $11,000. $11,000 a year just in camping fees. $30 a night is the price you typically pay, and we only have experience in Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, Arizona. $30 a day is dry camping. It's very hard to find full hookups for $30 a day. You can here and there, but typically for full hookups, you're looking at $45 to $55 a day.
And that's in more like state parks. You start getting into resorts, you're more like 50 and upward.
Yeah. So let's say you're at $60 a day. If you absolutely have to have full hookups all the time, so you can take your showers as long as you want and always have all the electricity you need to run the blender as long as you want, I would look at $60 to $80 a night on average nationwide. Now, let's say you just spend $60 a day. Not a big deal for one day. In a year, that's $22,000. That's a big chunk of change just on RV park fees. So depending on your income, that's something to really consider. So like I say, a lot of our weekend warrior friends say, oh, just stay at this place. They don't really think about how much it costs because they don't have to multiply it by 365 days a year. So that means to stay cheap, to save on those fees, you're going to be staying in some places you may not like. You may be boondocking in the world's most beautiful spots, but you may also be staying in a Walmart, or you may be staying in an RV park like this that's a gravel parking lot with picnic benches. Nothing beautiful, nothing spectacular. We do that in order to be able to afford our trip to California. And when we were planning our trip to California in a few months, there were times, the cheapest RV resort within 2 hours of where we're going was $75 a night. The cheapest. And so then we could go outside of town for $50 a night with no hookups. And so, same thing with the East Coast. It's very expensive over there. So when you hear all your big YouTubers that you follow talk about, we found a spot for $7 a night or $15 a night, those are the exception, not the rule. I would plan on spending $30 to $65 a night at an RV park.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
there are memberships too that you can do, but that can be tricky because the region that you're going to be traveling can affect which one you want to use, and so right now we're in a pocket of time where none of those would really make sense for us.
And they have real weird rules, like you can stay here 22 nights out of the month, and then you have to move to another one, then you can do another 22 nights, and for us that hasn't been worth it. Yeah. So the cost, I would not recommend someone choose full-time RV life to save money, because you're a tourist too, and you're going to want to go to all the museums, and those are $20 a person. Then you're going to want to go out to eat and eat the local food there. Then you're going to want to go to the national park, which may be $20 to get in. And so there's a lot of things that if you want to go to that place and really experience it, you're going to be spending way more money than you probably would have staying at home. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I just want you to be braced that this is not a super cheap activity.